Power of Sanskrit. Sanskrit is one of the oldest languages in the world with a rich repertoire of knowledge in the domain of poetry, logic, grammar, philosophy, aesthetics, science, technology, mathematics, and other allied subjects. And contributions in the area of all this which I mentioned has made extensive imprints in the minds of all those who have gone through this and realized the Indian scholars who have made it so popular that it survives even today. Sanskrit's potential as a scientific use was greatly enhanced as a result of the work of Panini, the great, and he has created just out of the 4,000 sutras, virtually the whole structure of the Sanskrit was created, and it which remains stable for next 22,000 years. I think that's what you are studying even today. And this is the structure of the language that gives us such a high value today, that look at from the scientific point of view, that it is created out of logic and structure. Many other languages don't have that capability. I come from a domain of science and technology. I am a rocket scientist. I have been building rockets. So when I look at this journey of language in Sanskrit and the rocket science, aeronautics that connects them, I'm really fascinated many a times by the work of great scholars and that they have created such great books. The very first book which I have come across in Sanskrit, which talks about the domain which I am familiar with, is the Surya Siddhanta. Many of you would have known about this book. And this is the book specifically talks about the solar system, the sun, the planets, and how the planets move around the sun, the periodicity of this movement, the time scales which are involved, the size of this, the whole structure, even the size of the earth. Even to think that your earth is a sphere, it has a diameter, it has a circumference. I think all these thoughts that happened there that time, it didn't stay here. It traveled all the way through the Arabic travelers. It went to Europe, and thousands of years later, the knowledge came back to us in the form of discovery by the great scientists of the Western world. Though it was all found out here, it was written down in this language, and today we know that it has been created. Varaha Mihira, through his Panchasiddhanta, we know much about it today. Lagatha, in the 1500 year BC, he has created the Vedanga Jyotisha. Aryabhata's work 1, Varaha Mihira's works, Bhaskara 1 and 2. Brahmagupta, it created the Brahmasputa Siddhanta, again a scientific work. Parameshwara and many others in Kerala, where I am coming from, wrote the Goladipika, which is again a very interesting book on astronomy. You know that many of the literature written in terms of the ideas like zero. If you subtract 1 from the 1, you get 0. Shunya, the concept of shunya. And equally important is the concept of infinity. I think both of these are the findings of those great rishis, expressed in very beautiful poetic ways. Even you know the algebra, the concept, the mathematical concepts called algebra, the square root of numbers, very precisely expressed. Even Vatayana equated to Pythagoras' theorem. You know, Vatayana was living during 800 BC. Pythagoras came much later. And he expressed that for a right angle triangle, how the connections between sides are expressed beautifully in the concept of areas. Though he was not talking about square, but he was talking about areas. It's exactly the same theorem of Pythagoras, expressed beautifully in Sanskrit in 2 sentences. You can read that and understand the beauty of it. Many other concepts like the concept of Vimana, architecture, the construction technologies, the concept of time, which is beautifully expressed in many literature, the structure of the universe and how it evolves and grows bigger and bigger with the time, metallurgy and manufacturing, chemical technologies, medicines, treatment, languages, the structure of the grammar, shastras like Nyaya, law, Sangeet, Tala, spirituality, philosophy, yoga, temple, astrology, and all of this were expressed beautifully in the language of Sanskrit. But the difficulty that is faced by the scientists at that time was this language was expressed more in Shruti and not in written form. And because of this Shruti nature of learning and teaching, the Sanskrit attained a beautiful nature that it is very easy to listen and by heart it, unlike many other languages. And that's why it survived. And today you don't need it. Today you can write it and express it. You don't need that Shruti structure, which is the beauty of this language. It's a rule-based, formula-based, and logical syntax. For people like us who are engineers, scientists, like it very much. Any language which is rule-based, syntax-based is something that suits into computer languages. And you know, computer people who are especially working in the artificial intelligence, machine learning, they like Sanskrit. And there is a lot of research being done how Sanskrit can be used for bringing into computation, natural language processing. To be precise, ancient India as a knowledge society in the area of various aspects, which includes intellectual pursuit in the areas of mathematics, medicine, metaphysics, astronomy, and the Sanskrit Shastric literature has been very copious repository of scientific and technological studies since the Vedic times. A notable feature of the scientific temper of these days was integration with the spiritual and the cultural aspect of life. So there were no separation between culture, spiritual studies, as well as scientific studies. So you can see them all merged in one in the poetic language that has been spread through the Sanskrit literature that's available. So it was for a noble cause of the human happiness. So in the modern science world, I think we can understand that all these are created out of those thought processes that existed thousands of years back. If you look through the journey of our Indian culture, you can see that imprints of the contribution of scientists of those times that was expressed in the language of Sanskrit through ages. In any area, astrology, astronomy, mineralogy, atmospheric sciences, biological sciences, medicine, physics, chemical sciences, aeronautical sciences, in which I am connected in some way. So only point is that though this knowledge has been there, it is not fully exploited to an extent, or is not fully researched.